All right, welcome everyone to our second to last LeadCon session for this summer. My name is Gleanne Kinsler. I am the coordinator here in the Office of Student Life and Leadership. I oversee our student organizations. And so hopefully you all are here for LeadCon. Today, we will be talking about all the things that are happening in this world and how they might relate to your student organization. Much of our conversation will be centered around social justice and how your organization can contribute to be change agents in this society. And so I thank you so much for being here. I know there's a lot going on and you all are tackling these big issues and are leading your student organization. So thank you. Before we get started, just wanted to let you know that we muted everybody. As you may have seen, we are recording this session to put on our YouTube channel. Feel free to rename yourself in the chat box, in your name in Zoom, and then introduce yourself in the chat box. I want to know which organizations are here and who you're representing, and feel free to, pose your questions, thoughts, ideas in the chat box. I'll be monitoring it. And then there will be a point later in the session where we will be going into breakout rooms. And so I want you to make sure you introduce yourself, your pronouns and your student organization when you go into those breakout rooms. And then for many of you who are here to fulfill your re-registration requirements, make sure you stay till the end of the session. We have a survey at the end for you to get credit. So yes, continue. I see some people are sharing what organizations they are with in the chat box. Please continue doing that. I just wanted to begin with a land acknowledgement. And so part of social justice for me is the acknowledgement, reevaluation and redistribution of resources. And I think social justice is so important so that we can see these gaps. And sometimes when we're working towards something, we miss the perspectives of others. And so today I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm here on campus, I'm in the TSU, and that I'm gathering on the land of the Tongva and Gabrielino nations who have lived and continue to live here. And we recognize these communities and their spiritual connections to the ocean and to the land as the first stewards and the traditional caretakers of this area that we now call Fullerton. And so I wanted to begin by thanking them for their strength, their perseverance, and their resistance, and acknowledge that they are here. If you wanted more information to learn about the Indigenous people that are native to your respective communities, here is a really great link to visit, and we'll be sure to send out this slide deck after today's presentation. But it's a really great resource for you to begin learning about what communities are, Indigenous to your area. So one of the things I wanted to go back to, because a lot of our conversation today will be talking about what is your purpose, what is your mission? And so within the Office of Student Life and Leadership, our purpose for student organizations, for students getting involved in student organizations, our mission is to empower students to find and create communities so that they can better themselves and the world around them. That's why student organizations exist at Cal State Fullerton. We often tell students, get involved, find a group, find a community for you. And if you can't find one, start a group. It only takes 5 students. And so why do we want you to do that? Because we want you to find that community, and we want you to learn about yourselves, and we want you to learn about the world around you. And we want you to make an impact and be change agents in society. And so that will be a lot of our conversation today. We structured LeadCon around 3 areas. And so we will talk about the social change model. And so that LeadCon has been structured around the individual And then as you become a part of a group, and then as your organization becomes a part of a bigger community, I like to think of the social change model kind of like the idea of, when you get on a plane and they tell you, put on your own mask before you help others, really understanding who you are so that you can help others. So we'll talk about the social change model. We'll talk about, why understanding your why is so important. We'll help you reflect on your why and your purpose, and then we'll start to communicate how your why stretches beyond your student organization. Because I think when we talk about purpose, a lot of students often think, we think of our identities to the things that we do. Maybe I'm a business major, or I go to Cal State Fullerton, or, maybe it's around like career goals, like I'm an aspiring nurse, or maybe it's a hobby, I do improv, and so, or I founded a student organization. But who are we beyond that? At some point you'll graduate, and then what? There's more to us than what we do. And so we're going to talk about it. So as I said, we're going to talk about the social change model, your purpose, finding your purpose, your student organization, and how we can really go back to our purpose and our mission of our student organization to recruit, engage, and retain members. I know we have a whole nother session tomorrow about that, but I think when we go back to our purpose as a group, then you're able to help your members stay engaged throughout the year. And so that's what we're going to chat about. So a lot has happened since the beginning of 2020, and we can't pretend like we're living in a vacuum, right? These events are happening around us, and we can't ignore them, and they oftentimes affect us, maybe in our daily lives, or in the networks and circles that we are in, because they affect others maybe personally. And so as we think about the things that have happened in the past year, or where are we, like 16 months in the pandemic, I want to know, put in the chat or feel free to raise your hand. How did your student organizations maybe respond to these events? Does anybody want to share? Jimena, do you want to share?
Sure. My name is Jimena. I'm representing Titan TV. One of the things that we did in order to respond to the pandemic was make sure to coordinate as efficiently as we could when it came to the Zoom meetings. I think all of us can agree that Zoom meetings were one of the biggest ways to adapt when it came to social distancing, but also keeping up with our organizations. So definitely that was something that we made sure to schedule and made sure to just communicate throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that's similar to so many other groups on campus, where they were having meetings in person, and all of a sudden we're in the pandemic, and it's like, okay, like we're going to continue trying to do things, whether we have game nights and things on Zoom or on Discord or wherever it be. And for me, I'm involved. So on campus, we have our Faculty Staff Association. So I'm really involved in our Asian American Pacific Islander Faculty Staff Association. And when, the Atlanta shooting and things were happening earlier this year, I was like, what are we going to do? Like, we can't be quiet, like can't be silent. How do we bring more awareness to this on campus? And so that was something that our Faculty Staff Association did. Does anybody else have examples of things that they did to respond to events? I know you all didn't just sit there. Y'all were doing things.
I'll share something.
Yeah.
So I'm the president of the Ultimate Frisbee team. So being a sports team, we weren't allowed to come together on campus or in any official sense. So to I guess, prevent the loss of skill and to retain players, we kind of had monthly meetups at locations away from the campus. So we would go to the beach or something, have like a beach meetup or something, and we would, try to practice our skills and maintain them as best we could. Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, everybody was doing something to try to accommodate the needs of their members and really carry out the mission of your organization. So thank you for sharing. So as we think about these issues, on the previous slide, there were, all these pictures of things that have happened, of just a few things that have happened in the past 16 months. And when you think of it, no one person or no one group can address all of it. That's a lot. That's asking a lot from one person or one organization. And so when we think about social justice, it's really acknowledging that, one, everybody is at a different place. And so that is a great thing, that everybody is on their own journey when it comes to social justice, and everyone's actions might be a little bit different. And so if you think about social justice, it means taking action to do something. So if you think about the 300 plus student organizations we have here on campus, there would be so much more impact if one student organization focused on one thing rather than, every single student organization trying to do 5 things, trying to address racial injustices and climate, change and, gender differences and all of these different things. We'd have so much more impact and passion and momentum if we focused on one thing. So maybe you are a gender-based organization and you want to address equal pay, or maybe there's another gender-based organization and they want to address preventing sexual violence. Maybe there's, you're the hiking club and you want to recognize, the environment and how climate change is affecting, public spaces and use of, the places that we gather in terms of like hiking and things. So really thinking about everybody's actions might look a little bit different. For some people, it might be having tough conversations with loved ones, that social cohesion aspect. For other groups, it might be the political activities, right? Like voting, really encouraging people to vote if they can, contacting political officials, really, advocating in that realm. For other groups, it might be talking a little bit more about history and American history and digging into family history. For other groups, it might be community service and donating monies to different causes. And the idea of social justice is we need everybody at all of these different places taking all of these different actions because we need them in all these different realms to make a change. And so if we can acknowledge the intersections that we have as individuals or within groups, and recognizing there is intersectionality when it comes to climate change and racial injustices, then we can then make a difference in advocating and making progress towards justice. And so the social justice idea means maybe for our student organization, we're going to focus on one thing and lead with that purpose that's related to our mission. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. So I know we keep going back to this social change model. And so this was Aston's social change model, which is this idea that it grows outside of the individual. So recognizing that, as an individual, there are the three areas that you have to be cognizant of who you are and who you are as an individual in terms of your beliefs, your values, your attitudes, your emotions, and then making sure that your beliefs are congruent with your actions. And then that commitment and that energy that motivates you to the bigger group, right? And so something led you to be a member of your student organization. And as members of your student organization, you're working together to achieve a common purpose, and that there might be different ideas that are coming as to how you might achieve that common purpose, but we're going to be civil about it. We're going to have productive conversations about these ideas, so that we don't have groupthink. And that, I think, when it comes to these engaging in dialogue, this is where the idea of everybody coming from different spaces on their social justice journey is really valuable, because then you get to see the gaps, you get to see different perspectives. And when we move towards how does that affect the bigger community, you see this is where our place is to maybe really affect change. And so that change comes from all three areas. And so I know I just shared a lot with you. So there are lots of resources online, and I'm happy to share more if you have questions. But we're really thinking about how we created the our LeadCon sessions, where we had sessions related to burnout and you as an individual. We had a president session where previous student leaders, previous presidents were able to share their tips and tricks of how they were able to lead organizations. And then we had sessions like the ones we had earlier this week about creating and managing expectations. And then we have sessions like today, where we're talking about how do these ideas as a student organization affect the bigger society. So we have been trying to, really understand the framework of the social change model, because we know that you're more than just a student leading this student organization. And as I say that, we want to acknowledge that you are wearing multiple hats. You are a student first and foremost, but you have obligations outside of school. And so we have this document that we created for students starting a new organization, which might be helpful as you're thinking about like, what is the purpose of your organization? But that as returning student leaders, it might be really helpful to go back to your constitution, look at the mission of your organization, and then go back to this document and see, are they aligning with each other? And so as we talk about you wearing multiple hats, I want you to think about, I don't really think about like work-life balance. I think of work-life balance more like work-life harmony, especially during in this pandemic, where we're at home and we've been at home for so long, and we're getting ready to return to life in person, life at school. It's hard to separate sometimes all the different hats that you wear. And so like work-life harmony is kind of like a song. Sometimes you hear more of the bass, or sometimes you hear more percussion. And at different points throughout the year and different points throughout the life, different parts of your life, the identities that you hold are going to take responsibility or take priority. And so when thinking about your organization's purpose for this strategic planning guide, I want you to also think about what got you involved in this group. Or why did you even start this organization? Like something prompted you to take action. Something in you said, I need to be a part of something bigger. And so reflect on that and ask yourself, what was that? And how does that tie back to the mission in our Constitution? And what is the purpose of our organization? So there's this tiny, like I said, I'll share this tiny URL and slide deck with you all after this session. So the golden circle is something Simon Sinek talks about in his TED Talk. And so we're often familiar with the what of our purpose. It's the end result. It's the consequence of your why. While you're in college, it might be something like I'm a business major, or I'm a first generation Asian American college student, but that's not necessarily our why. Like I said, the what is our consequence. That might be a product or a service. So maybe I'm the running club, and what might be, we run 5Ks. The how is like how we do it. So maybe I'm part of the running club, and we meet every week and we go running. And so some people are familiar with their how. So this is relating back to your individual purpose, but also to your purpose as a student organization leader. And so the how is maybe specific actions, the steps you take, your value proposition, but your why is like, what is your North Star? What is your true motivation, right? And so I'll share a personal story with you, and maybe it will give you some context. So if I focused on my what, I might say something like, I'm a first generation student affairs professional. These things are all true. But if I told you I got laid off or something, right? Then would it still be true? Like if I found myself in this position, if I found myself where I got, had to leave the industry, is that the legacy I want to share with people? And so if I really focused on my why, I might tell you that I want to help others to learn about themselves so they can leverage their strengths to make an impact on their community. That just sounds and feels different. I first said I'm a first generation student affairs professional, but then that's really my what, like that's my end result. That's what it looks like now. But if I focused more on my why, I'm telling you, I want to work with people like you all to help you leverage your strengths to make an impact on your community. And so if I focused on my why, then it puts me in a different life trajectory. I wouldn't I just happen to be doing it in the realm of education, but I could be doing it in a different field. And I'll share you a few more examples of how I activate my why in a little bit, but I want you to start really thinking about what is your why and what drove you to join your student organization. And so I'll share this link with you. If you have time, I highly recommend watching this TED Talk. It's really helpful to really think about what is your why for yourself and your student organization. So I keep talking about your purpose, keep talking about your why, and you're asking me like, why does it even matter? And so I tell you that these things matter because maybe some of my psychology major friends in here know that, that people, every human wants, safety. They want to feel seen, heard, and feel like they're a part of a bigger community. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And so your organization is a way for you to fulfill these human needs, either consciously or unconsciously. We are social. It is the way that we thrive is through close relationships. And we can only, the only way to survive and thrive is to trust one another. And so if you think about it, our ancestors depended on each other while they slept to look out in the event there was danger coming in the middle of the night. And so that physical and psychological safety is what allows people to take risks and do things. And so feeling safe is necessary. So we need to align our why with our student organization. And spoiler alert, your why is always going to be in service to others, right? We're going to need to find community at Cal State Fullerton in order to stay here at Cal State Fullerton and graduate. And so you're going to need to find what is the purpose of your community? And so as you think about your personal and your organization, like what are your values? What is your motivations? What are your passions and strengths? And so when you think about your personal purpose, it's, you can ask your friends, like, why are we friends? Like, what is the value I add to your life? And then ask them to share an example. And oftentimes they'll be able to identify something that you haven't. And as we think about the past 16 months, I think a lot of us have been doing a lot of soul searching and thinking about like, what is really important to me in life? You know, what am I willing to risk? What do I need to shed? Because we've just been at home for so long. And as we think about going back into the real world, thinking about what is important to us and what matters to us. And so ultimately your why, either personally or within your organization, is going to give you more confidence, because you'll be able to make better decisions, right? And so remember how I told you that my why was to help others learn about themselves, to make a difference and an impact on their communities. Knowing my personal why has made it easier for me to figure out what kind of projects and things I want to invest my time in. It's helped me understand why I gravitate towards certain projects over others. And I want to give you an example. So last summer, my family is a really big family. My mom is one of 8. We were supposed to have a family reunion in person. And then COVID hit. And so I thought, this is a really great opportunity for us to do something different. Life is continuing. I don't want us to not get together just because we can't do it in person. So why not try doing a Zoom reunion? So I coordinated a Zoom reunion for our 50 plus family members. And for day one, we did a whole weekend as we would have if we were in person. So day one, we did a cooking demonstration, and I'd collected recipes from my family to create a family cookbook and I was able to find some recipes that my grandma had written and like scan them and share them with everybody. Day two, I was able to do, we did like a family history, like Kahoot quiz. And so that was really cool, because all of last summer, I just spent time like talking to my aunts and uncles and asking them about family history. And then day 3 was about storytelling. We just had an opportunity for them to talk to each other. But the one thing I wanted my family to take away was that learning our history wasn't just for us, but for future generations to make sense of their, Filipino American identities. And so that was I was like, why do I keep gravitating towards, why am I so passionate about this project? And so I'd realized I was so passionate about it because it really hit my why. And so I was able to connect those dots. And so I think about like all of these decisions that I make as an individual. I also volunteer with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And I think about like, why is this so meaningful to me? And so I realized that it goes back to my why. And so that I wanted my little to know that, he is safe, and that I want him to be seen and heard and part of a larger community, and that he can, do anything that he puts his mind to and can make a difference in this world. And so I think really understanding your why helps things become clearer. It really gives you that confidence, and helps you focus on what matters in life, but also it makes you confident in that decision making of like, we're going to do this next thing, and I have confidence that we're doing the right thing because it aligns with my values and who I am as a person. And I hope that you all can do that as an organization. And so I have an activity for us for our next slide. And so to demonstrate what this might look like for an organization. And so in the chat box, I want you to just put a few words of like, when you think of CVS, what do you think of? So put that in the chat box. You think medicine, pharmacy, mom's medicine. Convenience store, pharmacy. Risky prepackaged sandwiches. Medicine, snacks, sunscreen. Drugstore makeup. Okay. Does anybody think of like, would anybody think like CVS, like healthy, CVS, like wellness? Do those things come into mind? Would anybody think like CVS? So here, I'll share this case study with you all. So in 2014, CVS removed tobacco products from their store because I don't think anybody was thinking CVS cigarettes, right? That wasn't like something that came to mind. And so in 2014, they removed all of the tobacco products in their sales, and they lost $2 billion in annual sales. But I think it was based on this research from American Journal of Public Health, they found that it was effective because compared to other exclusive purchasers, CVS exclusive purchasers were 38% likelier to stop cigarette purchasing after tobacco removal. And compared with other states, intervention states that had a significant decrease in the packs per smoker per month. And so really thinking about, is your organization practicing what you preach? Or is your organization, are the things that you say are values of your organization, is it aligned with the things that you're actually doing? And so in 2014, CVS was like, many of you thought about, pharmacy, medicine, healthcare, right? And that just seems so contrary to cigarettes and tobacco products. And so for them, they were like, we're going to take the risk and lose this money. But ultimately, like somebody said in the chat box, it probably helped mental health in the long run as well. It probably helped so many other issues if customers weren't able to go to the pharmacy, get their drugs that they needed from their doctor, prescribed by their doctor, and their cigarettes. And so I think there's so much value in that as well. So really thinking about your why in your student organization. And so as we're getting ready for the upcoming academic year, think about, as a leader, you have the opportunity to set the tone for the culture that you're creating with your organization. So how are you going to create that psychological safety? What is the why of your student organization? What are the values of your organization? How will you make decisions? Oftentimes we make decisions based on the information that we have at the time, but our purpose and vision should be our North Star. And so it's like if you were hiking to the peak of the mountain, your organization's why is what your destination is. And you may take your own trail to get there, but the boulders and trees are just obstacles. So take that 30,000 foot view of what you're doing. And if the things that you're doing in the next, we're getting ready for the fall semester, if the things that you're doing as we prepare for the fall semester don't align with your why or your bigger goals, and maybe it's time to reflect and reprioritize, either, for your personal self or for your organization. And so I think many groups are getting ready to meet or, getting their retreats ready. I think these are very valuable conversations to really have is, what is our organization's purpose and how are we going to fulfill that this semester? And so how are we going to communicate that as we get ready for Discover Fest? So when we think about recruiting and retaining members, I think it's different, right? When you are able to use stories and examples. I think if you were the running club, I have this example. So if I was the president of the running club, I might say at Discover Fest, like, oh, you should join our student organization. We run 5Ks. That's our what. And so, I don't know, that might like turn some people off. They're like, nah, I don't really run. That's not my thing. And the difference between join our club, we run 5Ks versus, hey, join our club. Like we really run to unwind and challenge ourselves. And we do 5Ks when we can enjoy them, right? And so the larger purpose is the focus on mental and physical health. And so when we focus on that why, it inflicts those feelings and emotions. And so I encourage you to really think about what is your why of your student organization, because I think when you focus on the why versus the what, it separates you from other organizations. And it's the difference of between giving up and really going after a goal, right? And so there's that great Maya Angelou quote of people will forget what you said. People may forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way that they made you feel. And so that why really engages those feelings and emotions when you're engaging with potential new members, or just you're getting your members ready to return for the fall semester. And so really figuring out what is that psychological safety that you're creating for your organization. And so if I was the president of the running club, I could really talk about, like, you don't have to be the fastest. You don't even have to join these 5Ks if you don't want to, right? We're just committed to your physical and mental health. Like, that's why our club exists, is to be able to come in community, run together, and, work things out through running. And so that's the difference between focusing on your what and your why. And so the next activity that I have for you is to have you all, I'm going to break you all up. And so I want you to start thinking about, what is your organization's purpose? Why does your group exist? And then why did you join this organization? How is your group contributing to society as a whole? And so going back to, like, maybe you are, I gave the gender-based organization, maybe you're the baking club. Well, some groups might be like, yeah, you should join us because, like, there's free food. We bake stuff. So, like, we have food at all our meetings. That's cool. And that might get somebody to come to 1 to 2 events, but, like, how do you get them to come back? And so maybe it's, oh, we are the baking club and we learn about different baking techniques from different cultures so that we can learn about cultures all around the world. That's so different than just saying, come, we have free food. And so what is maybe one issue that your group can tackle that aligns with a larger social movement? And so I talked about the baking club. And so maybe it's learning about indigenous, baking techniques and learning about indigenous cultures. Or maybe it's about going to a certain, area of the world to learn about their culture. Or maybe it's understanding how colonization affected another part of, another country. So really thinking about, what is your organization's purpose? Why do you exist? Why did you even join? What is your group contributing to the society as a whole? And what's maybe one thing that we can focus on? It doesn't have to be 5 things. You can just pick one thing so that we can make that change. So I'm going to get you all in breakout rooms. All right, y'all. I don't know what happened. It said my network connection failed. So here I am from my cell phone in the office. So, all right. Where were we? We just came back from breakout rooms. And obviously I can't share my screen. So what did you all talk about? Does anybody want to share, like, what your purpose is? Why does your group exist? Why you joined, how your group is contributing to society as a whole, and maybe one issue you can tackle that aligns with, like, a larger social movement. You don't have to address all of it, but you can, if you want to pick and choose which one you want to answer, by all means. And feel free to unmute yourself, because I have limited viewing capabilities on Zoom right now on my phone. So if anybody wants to share, go for it.
I can go. So I didn't see, like, a reactions to put my hand up or anything. But hello, everybody. My name is Ursula Garcia, pronouns she, hers. I am the event coordinator for the TESOL Club. TESOL stands for Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. Thank you. So in any case, I'll admit, most recently, I don't think our org has done too much, unfortunately. But when I started thinking about it, I thought that there is so much more we could potentially do about being active in our community. So I was thinking, since it is teaching English to speakers of other languages, groups we could potentially work with, of course, is teachers, other unions, or potentially working with immigrants, refugees, and undocumented folks. And I know there's quite a few co-ops on campus as well, so I would love to do collaborations on that front as well. But I definitely think that there is the possibility of being more active, like I was saying, and just being able to be more of a visible presence, I feel, on campus because I am pretty sure nobody knows who we are. I think you're muted.
Thank you for sharing. That is so valuable for you to talk about. Like, you see opportunities where you all can grow, and then focusing on one thing and maybe collaborating with other student organizations is really how you all will make a bigger impact as a student organizations as it relates to these, larger social movements. So I can't wait to see what you all will do this upcoming semester. And maybe you will find your own purpose using your beautiful voice for other things. Anybody else want to share?
I'll go. So, as a part of Titan TV, we decided to start participating in Titan Link and organizing a club because we felt that it was a really important thing to just start building a bigger community and start encouraging students to want to explore what is the news, explore the seriousness, the greatness, the diversity, the politics of it, or just get able to be confident in being a part of something, of wanting to spread the news and being that person as an anchor, or being behind the camera, just participating in that kind of stuff. And we think that our purpose is really honed in on the fact that we want to encourage students to get involved with this kind of stuff. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, the idea of like different perspectives and sharing perspectives, because there's so much out there about fake news and, who has real news, and the ability to share different stories from all different voices and backgrounds on campus. That's great. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share something. We are the Ultimate Frisbee Club. So our sport is kind of I guess it's the place where people who don't really have like sports skills developed in high school or whatever, like it's kind of the place for people who aren't very athletic or like don't really have pre-existing skills within a sport to come and play. So if you guys are like, if you want to play a sport but you don't feel you're athletic or you don't have any skills that would let you get into like the soccer team or the baseball team, you could end up on our team. And since we are a co-ed team, I guess the issue that we're tackling is I guess underrepresentation of women in sports. And it's always a struggle to get girls to join our team because it is an overwhelmingly male sport. But most teams in Southern California are co-ed in our sport. So if you're a girl who's looking for a sport to join, but you can't really find a home, the Ultimate Frisbee team is one of the most fun sports that you could play, and it's a very welcoming environment which tries to foster friendships. So that's kind of what our organization is all about.
Thank you for sharing. I think this opportunity is like for you all to share is also really great, because then you all get to see like what other groups exist and what they're up to. It's kind of like another form of Discover Fest, because you're like, oh, like I've heard about this group and I kind of know what they're about, but like maybe you've seen Ultimate Frisbee, on TV or on the internet somewhere, but hearing you all talk about it, a little bit more, it's it paints a different picture. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share.
Go for it.
So I'm Eddie, and I am the president of the Student Veterans Association. And our group does a lot of community service events for the campus and off campus, like beach cleanups and fundraising events. And that's what we do. We provide a service as veterans. Community service is a big deal to a lot of our members. And besides that, we do a lot of socializing and just social events for team building. So that's where our mission lies. And yeah, this semester, like our group, we talked about the breakout room. We just talked about the issues we might be facing for the fall with COVID rising again, and deciding whether we're going to go full virtual or having some physical or in-person events. So it's just all a matter of working with our members and then also networking with other clubs to produce events.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I think as you all think about social justice, it's not going to happen overnight. And so I think it's necessary for you all to find like the one thing that your organization or you personally are going to be an advocate for, and know that you can't be an expert in everything, and that we need everybody where they are on all levels to make a difference, to really affect change. And I think back to how angry people were after the Breonna Taylor case, became public, and how there was so much movement around that at the beginning, and then it kind of fizzled. And so it's kind of that anger only sparks, people for so long. Anger can only fuel you for so long. And so figuring out how it will tie it back to that bigger purpose and that bigger picture of your mission of your organization is so necessary, so that it creates that momentum and that passion to sustain over time. And I know, social justice work is tiring. And so please rest, find your community. And we had a session on Monday with the Dean of Students office, and they talked about creating and managing and revisiting expectations. And so as you all talk about what is the bigger purpose of your organization and how you can, align your programs and events and your efforts this upcoming year to them, align that with your expectations and how you will hold each other accountable. So recommend that maybe if you didn't come to Monday's session, watch it on our YouTube channel. It's a really great one for anybody in any organization. I just have a few more things. So we're just remembering that, start where you're at and do what you can, be your authentic self, and remember that social justice is a verb and that it requires actions, and it's not enough to just be performative. And really thinking about what is the power that you hold, what are the privileges that you have, and how are you going to use that to your advantage. Don't be afraid to get it wrong, because you're going to get it wrong. And so recognizing that if we can use that growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset for when we approach social justice, will just help you in so many ways understand those gaps and figure out what you can really do to affect change. So that was really all I had for you all. We have one more LeadCon session tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a panel with previous Tuffy Award nominees and winners. They'll be talking about recruitment, engagement, and retention, and I'm really excited for them to share their practices But it really goes back to that purpose and what is the mission of your organization and how are you going to articulate that why to other people so that they are engaged. I was starting to hear a little bit from all of you. So thinking about, we're not just a running club that runs 5Ks, we're a running club that uses running for our mental and physical health. And so we run 5Ks when we can. And so being able to recruit and retain members in that way is so different. And I think we'll attract more quality members.